most exciting thing about being at Marigold with all the construction?
I think that it's seeing all the construction workers doing the work and building new buildings for our school and seeing new kinds of vehicles. I like seeing the new things that they build every day. Like seeing how much work is getting done every day.
How do you feel about next year and being in a new classroom? What do you imagine it will be like?
I'm really excited, and I think it'll be really cool to be in a brand new building. I think they'll look really new and clean, just really good. I think it will be kind of fun because I'm gonna be in a new place that I haven't been in, and I'm gonna be able to be in a two-story, I think, and be able to explore. I think that it's gonna be about up to that tree.
I want to know if you cheated and got the twins from somewhere.
I know, right? No, actually, I sent out a message to all the parents, and Mom offered to have them come tonight and said we could interview them, and they did an excellent job. Excellent job. And Marjorie as well. Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Riley. Do you have any questions for the students? I also invited Julie and Maria to be here, too, if you had any questions for all of us regarding the construction, how things are going. Any comments?
Thank you. Students, you did an excellent job. Your media presence was amazing. To Julie or whoever there you guys are. Yes, the real construction person on the job. When do they start foundation work on the two-story classroom? Is that already in the ground and they've started up?
So we've got all of our infrastructure in and rock in, and
Fantastic. Wow. Well, I've enjoyed the traffic. It was right by my house.
So our dad always let us put our fingers in the concrete. I guess that won't happen, right?
So every time I drive by Marigold, and it happens to be recess time, and someone mentioned it, one of the students mentioned it in the video, I happen to see students up on the play structure, and they're watching. They're very intently watching all the work that's going on. I just think it's a great learning experience for them, and as that young man mentioned, seeing the different vehicles, very exciting. But I'm curious, is there a lot of noise that disrupts the classrooms?
So we went ahead and included the real life situation where we were trying to record. There was no recess going on. All you heard was construction, and we minimized the construction noise and maximized their voice to get it to speak up that much. But yeah, so there's always ambient noise everywhere we go. But I think a lot of people have gotten used to that. We don't notice it. It's just kind of in the background. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much.
And you guys are welcome to stay, but if you want to go, you can go ahead and go too. We know you probably have homework to work on, right? That vicious kindergarten homework. So I'm going to jump right on into the Superintendent's Award, and I would like to invite up Tina Keene, Principal at McManus Elementary.
Board members, Chico Unified staff, and guests, thank you for this time to honor not only one, but two of our John McManus staff members. A few weeks ago, the principals were asked to select one person to honor from our site this year with the Superintendent's Award. I asked Jim if I could honor two. There was no way I could just honor one of these people, and he said that would be fine. Truth be told, I would honor my entire staff here tonight if I could. That's how fantastic all of my staff members are at the school that we call McMazing. And if you'll notice, there are several back here that came tonight for their colleagues. Christina Brown is our first honoree this evening. Christina has worked at McManus for the past 10 years as a school aide. In that time, Christina has become part of the heartbeat of our school. She works in our primary classroom, language arts centers, the ever-exciting lunch to school program team. Anyone who meets Christina feels she is an immediate friend. She is warm and compassionate, but also holds a very quiet, high standard for anyone around her to do the right thing and be good people. Christina is a loyal and dedicated member of our school family and brings her trademark positivity to school each day. I often say that Christina is an angel. I really believe she is. She's extremely generous to all, and more importantly, she is a role model for our young students to do the right thing. Our students love her. She treats them all as if they were her own, and quite often we have former students come by to visit her, which she always loves. She makes everyone feel important, a quality that I truly believe is innate to her, and a very special and unique quality at that. Recently, a young student came to school after an unexpected family loss. Christina was the first person that this young student opened up to and was met with a big hug and Christina's quiet words of compassion and support. I believe this was almost as therapeutic for Christina as it was for the young student. This is just one example of who she is and why she's loved so much at our school. She has a wonderful family of her own, family that we have gotten to know well during the years. In fact, her daughter Victoria, who's here tonight, is a former McManus Mustang and is now a senior at Pleasant Valley High School. I thank her family for sharing her with us. McManus would not be the same without her and is better because of her. Congratulations, Christina, on this well-deserved Superintendent's Award. Our second honoree this evening is our senior custodian, Julian Gonzalez, or Mr. Julian, as we call him at school. This will be Julian's 5th year at our McMazing school. I really enjoy talking about him simply because everyone, including our own Kelly Staley, compliments him upon noticing his positivity and team spirit while at McManus. Julian has brought so much more than a job description to his job as senior custodian. He takes great pride in our school, and the safety of our campus is his #1 priority. He is organized with his schedule and always allows and welcomes times for staff members to call, text, or email him when they need his immediate help on campus. Julian has a deep understanding of what our school maintenance entails and doesn't waste any time when maintenance is needed. He's a great communicator and has taught me more than I ever thought I would know about locks, safety lighting, sheds, paint, and even toilets, among other customary maintenance items. That's right. One of the things I most appreciate about Julian is his willingness to always do more for our campus. He takes initiative, and he is motivated within himself to do more. We all call that pride. That pride is evident in how he has kept up our campus in order to pass the Williams Act and fire inspections over the years, not just well, but with exemplary marks. Julian and I have had some interesting situations that have come our way over the years on site. We share a healthy sense of humor, about some of these custodial things that you often have to shake your head at. But on a more serious note, some of these interesting situations have involved safety and ensuring our campus has nothing on it that was left behind by someone from the public who may not have been making very good decisions. He's always watching out for me, our staff members, and any students that need help. I know I can, and I often have called upon him to help me in certain situations. He's always there, willing to help in whatever capacity is needed. Our staff, students, and families love Mr. Julian. I believe he has come to see the positive impact that he makes on all at our school. He's friendly, outgoing, always willing to stop and say hello, has a great chuckle, and always has a conversation ready to go about his beloved Oakland A's, Dallas Cowboys, San Jose Sharks, or food.
Like to cook.
Anyone who knows him, however, will say that one thing trumps the A's or the Cowboys, and that is his family. Julian has a deep love of his family near and far, and I want to thank his wife Andrea and his two kids, Isaac and Ariana. Ariana also went to McManus and is here tonight, for being patient and understanding when our McManus duty has called. Thank you, Mr. Julian, for working so hard to make our school a beautiful and safe place. Congratulations on this Superintendent's Award. And we have there's some food for you. He's got food, yes.
For you too. All sorts of things. And why don't you, Tina, you be in the middle, Blinky on the other side, get a picture, document this.
Thanks, guys. That's right. We good? Right. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we are not quite done with our awards yet tonight. I'd like to invite up Julie Kissel for yet another classified superintendent's award.
Thank you. It gives me a lot of joy to recognize this employee tonight. We've worked together now for 10 years, and we've been through a lot of projects together. We've grown a lot. We've learned a lot of lessons. I've done things the wrong way and been corrected several times. But most recently, this employee has really stepped up to the plate. And especially on the McManus project, which I'll let Maria describe that to you. But we're just thrilled with the attitude, the can-do attitude that this individual has brought to the table. Just a really happy, tackle it, can do anything attitude this summer was just amazing and always has been. Patrick Bassetti, could you come on up? And I think his family's here as well. Thank you for letting us use your husband and dad. He's just been a tremendous asset. And I think John Vincent has a couple things to say as well.
Yes, I would. So Patrick, I gotta tell you, you are a pillar in our department. There's nobody really that really has mastered everything that you do. You gotta know that Patrick he's like the designer of our biggest systems. This network that we have, even though we had issues here that wasn't resolved with him, but he designed this network so that we can connect tens of thousands of devices up smoothly, and that's his design. He's just a master at designing things. He manages some of our biggest projects, our VoIP project, our new phone system. Patrick managing that. He does our E-rate project. And you can tell by the fact that someone from another department nominated him. He's great at working with other staff and working with other departments. Just a great asset to our district, to our department, and I just think we're all very grateful that he's with us. So thank you, Patrick. Thanks, John.
So Julie and John basically summed everything up, but
in my experience walking onto the Marigold Project and talking to the different staff and team members, I ask everybody, I just need patience. I need your patience because things will change, and they change on a daily basis. Patrick has given us lots of patience and has made things happen for us. We have sat, along with our team, we have sat through many, many long meetings on how this is going to go down, and it typically doesn't go down plan A, but Patrick has been there like on his way, returning emails when he went to his son's graduation in Reno, off at conferences and answering my questions about, is it okay if I move this IDF cabinet out of this classroom, and what's my clearance again, because I'm not in front of my computer and I know you know this off the top of your head. So he's really been an asset to our team, and we appreciate him and his family and everything he does.
So with that, we'd like to award Patrick with the Superintendent's Award. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, a little. Bill's got some explaining to do.
No, gotta get up here.
Yep,
Okay.
right into.
Congratulations.
And we have one more recognition this evening. So many wonderful people that we have to thank for our successful projects. Over the last 10 years, as you know, our district has performed on some major projects, from the Performing Arts Center at Pleasant Valley High School to the 2-story classroom building J&K over at Chico High, the Yale building at Pleasant Valley High School, Lincoln Center at Chico High, Chico Junior High, Bidwell Junior High, and this beautiful campus, Marsh Junior High, that we're on right now, only gets us up to what we did, the last 2 years ago. None of those projects would have been successful without our partnership with the Pacific Gas and Electric. We hear nightmare stories about bringing in power and bringing in gas and putting in new services or moving services or demolishing services. And we have just an incredibly successful relationship with Pacific Gas and Electric here in town. And we feel really blessed, treated very well by PG&E. Very successful projects, helping us to make our schedules, even though they're off providing emergency power to victims of wildfires all over our state, still making it a priority to help us make our schedules and communicating with us in a very accurate way to make sure that we know we're going to have the lights on when our kiddos show up. And that is very critical. A representative that we've worked with for all of the projects that I mentioned, as well as the projects we worked on this summer, which were very critical, is Lindsay Moulton. And Lindsay's here with us tonight with her beautiful family and with her supervisor, Natalie. Lindsay, would you like to come forward?
Thank you so much.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, we now move to announcements. Eileen, I think you said you had one. Kathy will be next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. At the last meeting, I went to sleep or something at the beginning of the meeting, and I was supposed to have asked for the board to consider excusing me from not having attended the, is it, huh?
You got to talk into your mic.
Oh.
They're waving me over there.
Okay, I can do that. Anyway, the August 1st meeting, I did not attend because several months prior to that, I was scheduled to attend a statewide educational conference for the California School Employees Association before I knew that there was going to be a meeting on the 1st of August. And so I'm asking the board to consider excusing me from that absence.
I would like to move that excuse to be valid.
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Do we have any discussion from the audience? I see none. Any from the board?
No.
Roll call vote.
Griffin, aye.
Hovey, aye.
Lustal, aye.
Kaiser, aye.
Robinson abstain.
Okay, so it passes 4-0, 1 abstention. Okay, thank you. Dr. Kaiser?
Thank you, board.
Yes, I wanted to mention that the work of the League of Women Voters is doing prior to the election to help inform voters. I'm on the League of Women's board. So they've had a forum that was Sunday at Anderson High School. That is the only forum that'll occur between LaMaffa and Denny. They had 2 forums on Monday night. The first was the city council, and the second one was the school board. And they have another one scheduled for, I believe, the 26th. But all of them are being live streamed and taped, and Channel 11 is showing them twice a week until the election. So anyone who missed the actual presentation can go on and see the live delivery of those forums. Also, I really strongly recommend that you go to Voters Edge. The League of Women Voters is a non-partisan organization, and so every candidate, every position, every item that is actually on the ballot will be addressed in Voters Edge in a nonpartisan way. So that way you can get all your information in one place. And again, it's nonpartisan. So I just want to recognize the work that they are doing, trying to educate voters, and they're conducting voter registration in numerous places. So thank you.
Very well. We now move to items from the floor.
President Listel, I do have one other announcement.
You have an announcement? Go ahead.
So we did receive from the Auditor Controller our tax rates for our bond measures. And just to report to the board, as a reminder, all the previous bond measures for Measure E had to maintain an amount of $45.50 less. All of those bond measures combined are going to be $41.93. And for Measure K, we had to maintain an amount under $60 per 100,000, and we're coming in at $45.44. Nice. So, just want to inform the board, and those will go out in the tax rolls.
So do you have the comparison from last year's tax roll?
Not with me.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. All right, items from the floor. If there is something that somebody would like to bring up that is not on the agenda, now is your time to do so. Okay, I see none, so we'll now move to the consent calendar. Oh, I'm sorry. Negotiations update. Thank you.
So just very briefly, we met for the first time with CUTA on Thursday, and we spent quite a bit of time on just going over the wage and benefit formula on the 3-year deal that we had come up with last year, discussing how that was computed and everything. We talked about a multitude of issues from MAW language, RSP caseloads, some other minor language changes, early tell MOU we signed, just kind of a pretext for all our negotiations throughout the year. So we're continuing with IBB. It's continuing well and successful. If you have anything you want to add, Kevin? Okay. And then as far as CSEA, our hope is that we will be meeting on October 1st. We're still working on some dates out on that. So I'll be able to report on that as soon as we meet with CSEA.
We'll now move to the consent calendar. Any items?
Nothing to pull.
Dr. Kaiser?
I want to pull 9.2.10. And with that, I move the rest of the consent. Okay. Oh. 9.1.1. Oh.
9.21?
No, 9.1.1?
Correct.
The minutes, okay.
And 9 to 10. Is that it? Okay, did you have a motion for the remainder?
I move that we approve the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Do we have any discussion from the audience? I see none. Any other discussion amongst the board members? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No, because we already did one roll call.
But there was not a unanimous.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. There was an abstention. Roll
Okay.
call vote.
Griffin, aye.
Hovey, aye.
Kaiser, aye.
Robinson, aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. 9.1.1.
Okay, this is really a minor issue, but on those minutes, at the very end, they mentioned the people who were up for re-election in November, and they also mentioned another person who was running, and the person was listed as Tom Lando. And I just wanted to make sure that it was recognized in the minutes that that's Tom Lando Jr.
Oh, yeah.
And
Good.
I just don't want it to be confused in the media or anywhere else.
Good.
Because it could easily be confused, I think, because Tom Lando Sr. is very active in different organizations.
So I think I can provide some clarification. He's not a junior.
He's not.
They have a different middle name, so he is not a junior.
So how will that be distinguished, I wonder?
I don't have an answer to that.
I believe the younger of the two Landos uses the middle initial G. I can check it on if any of us has a cell phone, but that's how they distinguish the differences. They use the different middle initial.
Okay, then I guess we'll just have to leave it the way it is. Thank you for that clarification.
Well, we could have his initial. Is his initial in there?
Yeah, put that in.
So we could put his initial in the minutes.
I think the public will have to wonder.
No, because it just says Tom Lando. So maybe if I would move that you put the middle initial in there so we distinguish that. I don't know. Add an E if that's his middle initial. Thank you.
Actually, when I pull it up, it's the older of, I hate to do that to Tom, but the other gentleman uses his middle name, Tom Snyder Landau, and the candidate for school board just uses Tom Lando.
In that case, I move item 9.1.1.
Second.
Motion's made and second. Any discussion from the audience? No. Any from the board? No. All those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Okay, 9.2.10.
I pulled this because of the significant accomplishments of the Chico High Musical Theater team to attend this festival, which is recognized literally all over the world. And I know that Inspire also had their musical theater person recognized significantly and invited to perform at a festival in Edinburgh, and this group is going to Ireland next year. So we've been asked as school board members and as different districts around the state to rate ourselves or rate our district in terms of the performing arts. And I think these are just really superb accomplishments and deserve to be highlighted. So congratulations. Yeah. And
I want to say, too, that, of course, I'm going to hit you up for money here. Ms. Kuhn is fabulous in many aspects, but these trips cost an exorbitant amount of money. And so you're going to be seeing some promotional flyers, but also we're going to have a PayPal link on our webpage. So if people just want to contribute but don't want to have the time to write a check, that they're going to be able to, I think we came up with something like Cobblestones to Success or Path Roads to Ireland or something along the Quiet Man lines, but you'll be able to see that. So tell people in a few weeks we'll put a link onto our page, and then you can click a donation button and simply donate to this cause, because I think it's going to be an extremely unbelievable trip, and I want to help Ms. Kuhn out as much as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
So with that, I moved 9.2.10.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any other discussion from the audience? I see none. Any from the board? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. We now will move to, let's see, discussion action calendar 10.11. Joanne.
So this is Sheila Anderson. She's here to represent Parade of Lights, and I would like to read the resolution. Whereas the Chico Parade of Lights is a community-wide family-focused event held annually in beautiful downtown Chico, and whereas the Chico Parade of Lights finds its history in the historical Pioneer Week celebrations in Chico, and in that spirit promotes community involvement, the Chico Parade of Lights is celebrating its 28th anniversary on October 13th, 2018. Oh, it's the 29th, I'm sorry. Okay, so it's the 29th, not the 28th. Whereas the goal of this parade is to encourage collaboration and partnerships among all community entities, the Chico Unified School District makes a commitment to have active participants, a part of the community, in the Chico Parade of Lights. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Chico Unified School District does hereby support the Chico Parade of Lights and encourages all educators and students to participate in and support parade activities. Passed and adopted by the school board, by the Chico Unified School Board District Board of Education at their meeting held on the 19th day of September 2018.
It's the 13th of October.
13th of October.
Okay.
Yeah, it says that. But I said the 28th anniversary, and it's actually on our poster the 29th.
Oh, I see.
Oh, the
Okay.
anniversary.
Okay,
I was
that's
gonna
what
say it.
threw me
So I'd
off.
like Sheila to say a couple words about it.
If you have any questions, it is our 29th annual Parade of Lights. Our theme this year is exploration from deep sea to deep space and everything in between, which leaves a really neat, setup for anybody with great creative ideas. And I would also like to announce that our very own Eileen Robinson is going to be our Citizen of the Year this year.
Yes.
So really proud of her.
Thank you.
We do have our pre-parade events at 5:30, family-friendly events. We have a really great band down at the plaza, and then the parade starts at 7. And we've got quite a few schools participating so far. We're hoping for a lot more. So hopefully this will encourage them to join the fun. And everything's done online now, so it's super easy. Nobody has to send in a check. They can do all of their stuff online. It makes it simple. So does anybody have any questions for me? And I know you guys have heard this spiel many years before.
I have a question. If you have Christmas lights that you're not going to be using, is there some place that we can get them to, like maybe to Azad's Martial Arts, or some place where people could go pick them up if they are needing extra lights?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And and there's a lot of the schools that are always saying, hey, we need light donation. I know Citrus has light donations and stuff, but I think they're not going with the float this year. They're going to be doing something a little different. But yeah, we can definitely store those over at Azad's, and anybody who wants to come get them, they're more than welcome to them.
That would be great. Thank you.
And I would like to say that they've designed a beautiful flyer that has gone out through Peach Jar, and I will send it to all of you. I don't know if you've gotten it, but I will send it to you.
Did you want to put one of these up at the district office or anything? Yeah, you can have those. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
It's not listed as that on ours, is it? I don't see it as, well, let's see,
Proclamation itself
attachment.
does say the 28th anniversary. I don't know if that's a sticking point.
I don't know if it doesn't really make a big difference.
Okay.
I don't think it does it?
So if you wouldn't mind amending the approval with the correction to the.
There's no, what are you correcting?
The
Oh,
date,
the 29th, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I lost it.
Yeah.
Where's that? What is it, the attachment?
Mm-hmm.
I just
It's
hit
the attachment.
That's what I did, and I didn't. Oh, I gotta go down and get it. Okay. All right, so we have a motion with an amendment. Any discussion from the audience? I see none. Any amongst the board? I see none. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
And
Please.
just thank you, Ms. Anderson. The work is all volunteer, and so you guys do an amazing job.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you at the parade. Thanks.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, item 10.1.2, Mr. Marchant.
Okay, well, one of our previous board meetings, the board had asked kind of, hey, how do we get the information out about different things that are going on in our high schools, and what are some of the good things that are going on in our high schools? So I'm going to be kind of having both principals, well, assistant principal and Principal Doug. Mr. Shepard couldn't make it tonight for medical reasons, but I'll have them kind of talk about different things that they are showcasing on their campuses and how they kind of give that information out. And then I'll talk about one other thing that we're doing in November that you also have a flyer that's coming to you on that. So again, I'll just kind of, we'll start with Renee.
Thank you and good evening. Sharing students in a community of this size is always interesting, and you have programs that there's going to be somewhat competition or likes more so than others, and so it's always interesting to see how things shake out. How we disseminate information to the public, we offer tours as long as they're scheduled. We have a huge freshman transition day in February, March, where all incoming 8th graders that have approved Form 10s at that time, or it is their attendance school, come and they get an entire day dedicated to the goings-on at Pleasant Valley, from going from class to class to finding out about programs, electoral programs, demonstrations within classrooms. We have Link Crew at the beginning of the year that connects all of our freshmen incoming to the programs that we have. Associated Student Bodies has a huge support in that. Our staff is very welcoming. We just dedicate the whole entire time to them because we want them to have the most positive experience possible. In addition to that, our website is readily available with tons of information. News media, every time we get the opportunity to showcase our school with our students, early morning sound bites, so on and so forth. We take every opportunity to get the word out about what's going on, upcoming events, and so on at both campuses. A couple of programs that I personally want to highlight at Pleasant Valley High School is our entire CTE genre of courses, from our welding and fabrication classes to our audio and visual House of Blue productions, our culinary arts, which go out into the community. They provide luncheons for groups that come on campus, some of the in-services. And so just the whole school to work concept, and having students that are work ready from the time they leave our campus, whether it be for a work experience job placement or to go from that job placement to the world of work after high school. We get compliments time and again, much like Chico High, I'm sure, that your students are ready. They came to us ready. We have employees that have worked for us in this business for 15 or 20 years, but the whole computer concept is such a new concept that our students are going out and programming those computers and making those machine run and teaching the employees that have been there for 15 or 20 years. And being a CTE student myself, coming through those old-fashioned ways, I'm learning every single day. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I'm learning from our students and our staff. And I can't say enough positive things, and there's something always happening, and we're moving and shaking all the time. So it's a great place to be. It's my 14th year, and I love it.
Do I need to yell at you, or?
I'm hitting him. It's more fun.
Okay. Renee, the first day of school, was there something a little different that happened the first day of school this year? I heard about it generally, but didn't really figure out exactly what it was. But whatever it was a big hit.
Yeah, it was a big hit, and it was something different for us. Thank you for bringing that up. It was called the No Backpack Day. And basically, administration would spend time in all of the incoming, or all of the freshman classes, going over rules and regulations and the do's and the don'ts. And what we found was those rules don't just apply to freshmen. They're constant reminders of the upperclassmen as well. And so what we did this year was the first day was No Backpack Day. And for the first half of the day, students were split into 4 groups by grade level. And they transitioned from the blacktop, where Mr. Shepard, Mr. Whitaker, and I did one session, then they went to the CFA, different staff members did, then the gym, and so they had 4 different breakout sessions, and that cut down a tremendous amount of interruption to teaching time in the classroom that we would actually be going in and addressing the classes, and that would be taking away from their teaching time. And so we thought we're going to try something a little bit different. Went out on a limb, a big limb, and didn't know if it would work, but the staff, the feedback from the staff and the students was it was the best start to the school year that they've ever had, and the positive energy. In my 14 years, it was just a totally different start in a good way.
Well, it was my student feedback that was just very positive about what had happened.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
So my approach, I think a month ago when we spoke, was how to get the word out and how to explain things that are going on at the high school. So my approach is twofold, because I kind of believe with information, there's 2 types of information. There's internal information and external information. So my attack at improving the marketing going on about Chico High is both internal and external. I tend to believe that external marketing can do wonders, but internal marketing is what has longevity. What I mean by that is, do the people at our school talk about what they're doing at their school with the people that they know? We all know that's how it happens. It happens in barbecues, it happens at picnics, it happens at birthdays, it happens at restaurants. And so part of my approach is to get the people at Chico High School to understand what's going on at Chico High School with each other. And the second approach then is to try to showcase that in various ways, either through brochures or through media or through guest speaking or hitting Rotary or what have you. All of the things that were mentioned by PV, other than their first day, we also do. We have Link Crew, we have 8th grade visits. These are kind of comprehensive maneuvers that all high schools do. But I don't know if you've probably seen it, but if you go on our website, right now we have an internal video on YouTube and we have an external video. So the internal video is the athlete committed video where Ross Fields put together kind of a brief history. We thought that was important for our athletes during Athletic Committed in particular to find out a little bit about what gym they're in. You don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. So the concept behind that was to let our parents and our students that are going to our school right now know what they're a part of, what we expect of them, the tradition, and their heritage. So if you go to our website and you click on the Athlete Committed part, it'll have a rundown of our school. It'll have a rundown of the community. I speak a little bit in there. Our athletic director speaks as well. And then the external video is obviously the lip dub, which was kind of a, I'm going to bring her here. It's Miss Bishop, our ASB leader at our school, is unbelievable, an unbelievable organizer. And but that event was a compilation of really hundreds of people coming together. And the most impressive thing about that day was no one knew what was going to happen. You have to take a risk every once in a while. And with all those moving parts and donkeys and, I'm thinking I got to call Kelly and tell her about, why do you have a miniature donkey on your campus? And why were you blowing stuff up? It's liquid nitrogen. But, sometimes you got to take a risk with things. And if you were on the campus that day, the best part about it was probably 99% of the people there were participating, from all kinds of students, special needs students, staff members, people in the CTE courses, FFA, whatever it was. And that was what was great, is the time that we had making that was actually more impressive than watching it. It comes out, though. I think it comes out when you watch it. But if you were there, that's the type of thing I'm trying to do at Chico High. Make people understand where they are is a great place to be, and that we need their help to continue to make it a great place, and that we're continually moving forward. On top of that, though, we have to point out some of our unbelievable departments. I want to bring up about employment. Just today, from one of my CTE classes, engineering and design, I had 3 members, engineers from this community who run fairly large engineering firms, congratulate Mr. Bergerman and our students, because they interviewed top out of even professional engineers in a small project that they're going to do, and they selected the 3 students from his engineering class to actually receive the job. And that, part of that is the community supporting us, but you're not going to hand out things when it comes to your business because your name's on that business. And so I want to mention that Ag. I met with Friends of Ag with Joanne about a month ago, and they're constantly saying that many of the jobs that they fly in the area, they can't get people to work for. And when our students go out there to work on machinery, whether it be fixing an auger or something on a combine, or even working with kind of drones, even in agriculture, that they're cutting edge and they have the knowledge. So I think you're seeing some exciting things on the campuses. We just need to make sure the community understands that this is going on. And so I enjoy this. I look forward to it. And I hope you guys keep pressing us to bring you more information on what's going on.
So go ahead,
Eileen. I was at this past Thursday, I can't remember, maybe it was Monday. I was at the police advisory meeting on campus, and a lot of the discussion was student safety at Chico High and on campus and PV and stuff. And I mentioned the Athlete Committed program, and it was amazing how many of the Chico State personnel as well as the police department were very aware and very complimentary of the Athlete Committed program in Chico Unified School District. They said they really hold that program in high regard. Both schools, and the presentation that Randy Gilzine did at the last meeting really highlighted that, we are all in. I mean, this is not just a superficial, in-name only program, that the coaches and assistant coaches and everyone are pulling this off in a beautiful way, and the community is paying attention.
Don't leave out the parents. We had to row the HOTU.
Thank you.
Before I talk my last thing, I just want to, I know John's not here, but I just want to say what an amazing job Doug is doing as a first-year principal to advocate for the Chico High School. The positive feedback we're getting from students, parents, and just the feel of the campus when you go on between him and his administration, and how well they're working well together and with their staff. It's been just outstanding. So again, while Doug's here, I want to just again to say what an amazing job he's doing to be out there, to be the front person for Chico High. The last thing you got is a flyer, and this is something the board has talked to me about, something we need to do before our families do their Form 10s, because the 8th grade visitation days are basically the kids go to those schools after they've done their Form 10s or what high school they've chosen to go see. So we've been discussing this, and then I want to give kudos. I think Dan Labar is still here. There he is. Dan also contacted us about possibly doing a high school or a secondary fair. So we went back and forth, and we decided to go to work with Dan and the other charter schools. So you'll see. Thank you, Jim. Oh, I thought they already. Wow, Jim, that's pretty limber too. I'm pretty impressed with that. Look at that, man. Get some. He's going to need an ice bath. All right, so what we're doing now on November 28th, so that'll be obviously months before our Form 10s come out, we're going to be holding in a high school fair here at Marsh Junior High from 5:30 to 7:30, and we're going to be doing it in conjunction with all the charter schools that are here in town that have high schools. So we'll be giving each high school portion of the NPR here to showcase their school. So again, I think to get out in front of the Form 10s is showing what these two administrators just talked about their schools, about what we're offering and what the charter schools are offering, so parents in our community in the 9th grade can have information about when they're choosing which high school they should go to. So we're pretty excited about that, and we're hoping that we'll continue to get the word out on what's going on our campuses.
Jay, thank you so much for doing that. That's been something that I've been pushing for a long time. So
And
I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I want to give kudos to Rocio French. She did an amazing job on this flyer. And Dan getting the logos again for all the charter schools. Again, I think it'll be a very positive thing for our community. Our high schools will be sending them out to the 8th graders in our high schools, and then Dan and his group will be taking care of making sure that charter schools, 8th graders get this information about this night also. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much. Good information. Okay, we will now move to item 10.1.3, dual enrollment. Mr. Bohannon.
Good evening. Dual enrollment has been a big push around the state, really for the last year and a half. The big change in the law that made it something that was more palatable for school districts is it used to be if you had dual enrollment on your campus, you had to allow adults to enroll in those courses on your campus. And that law has changed, so now you can just offer them on your campuses and you don't have to allow non-students of that school to attend on the high school campus. So we have been working along with Butte College to try to get an agreement in place that will allow us to get dual enrollment classes. And really, there's several ways that students can get college credit. There's College Connection. There's our 2+2 program that is in most of our CTE programs. This is just a little bit different in that it's our high school teacher that teaches, that meets the qualifications to be a professor at Butte College. They align their curriculum to the same course at Butte College. So the kids just take it in their regular school day as if it's a regular high school class, but they get credit for both high school credits and units at Butte College, and these are transferable units because it's just as if they took it at Butte College. So it's just a little bit different than what we've done in the past. In order for us to do this, we have to pass a partnership agreement with the junior college, and we have to take it to both our board twice and to the Butte College Board twice. So tonight is our initial look at the agreement, and then we'll bring it back in a couple weeks to ask for approval. And then once we approve, then it'll go to Butte College, and they'll do 2 meetings. Mm-hmm. So in our perfect world, if everybody agrees to approve the dual enrollment partnership agreement, we may be able to get kids college credits as soon as this spring in their classes. If we can we're focusing initially on CTE teachers, and the Mario Vela from Butte College, who's been in charge of the transition for the dual enrollment program, has already met with our teachers that qualify, or at least had an open communication with them that meet the requirements, so that we can hopefully get this through, so that we can get those classes that are already there and to get students to get dual enrollment credit.
So can you give me some examples of the classes that are likely to fit this shoe? Because the community college builds the shoe, we don't.
Right.
So
right now it would be our advanced, our CTE classes, like our engineering class at the end of their pathway. Advanced welding can work at both high schools. I think Gary has a class that can work as well. So it's those type of courses that are like a third year of a pathway and a CTE pathway that they feel like would match. And we have, I think, 5 CTE teachers that they say meet minimum qualifications. Because even though minimum qualifications is usually a master's degree, years of experience in an industry can also work in the CTE world. So that's why they're kind of focusing on the CTE teachers first. They kind of see it as the low-hanging fruit that we can get in place quickly. And then once those are in place, we can start talking about, can we get other disciplines in place where we can get dual enrollment as well.
And so the other aspect I was concerned, because the funding goes to Butte College for the class, the teacher does get an additional stipend, but it's only $400. So what is the quota that has to, of students to be in the class that would, in effect, meet the standards? I mean, we have quotas that are based on our union agreements, but this is a very different kind of thing. This is a grant.
Right, so they didn't really give us a quota. They would like to see about 10 kids, but they didn't put a minimum. But they'd like to see about 10 kids if possible. So if you had a class that had 30 kids in it, 10 of them could decide they wanted to sign up for the dual enrollment. They don't all have to.
Oh, I see.
And that's an important distinction because when you take a dual enrollment class, that grade's on your transcript forever. But when you take a 2+2 articulated class, you only get college credit if you get an A or a B. So it goes away if you don't get an A or a B. So it's an important distinction for us to make sure the teachers and the students are aware. If you sign up for this college class and you do poorly, that will be on your transcript forever.
Okay, that makes a huge difference, and I really, really hope that we're going to do very robust advising, because a student could end up in a situation where they've hurt their chances to even get into, I mean, the whole grant's focused on helping students enter college, but a low grade could keep them from qualifying because, like you said, it's going to stay with them forever. So that's going to be some really sensitive advising that we would need to do. But,
right, and part of the requirements for the teachers is that they have to be trained, and Mario has said he or whoever, he won't be in that position forever because it's kind of a new position and they're hiring a new person for it. He just kind of took it on as an extra duty right now. But that they will actually come to our school sites and train the teachers on school sites so that it's not like a big burden on the teachers. They do want to have some group meetings so that they all understand all those. And the kids will follow the same drop periods as they do at the college. So we want to make sure they understand that for the first couple of weeks so they can drop if they feel like, oh, this isn't going to be for me. So we want to continue to have that discussion until we get out of the Butte College drop period where they can drop without any consequence.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is what we're seeing is in this first reading, it's just a boilerplate, the fact that there's some holes, I don't need to pay attention to that?
Right, so the dates aren't on there on the
right,
first,
and the counts, and the classes.
Well, the classes aren't on there because those go in the appendix, and the appendixes are approved, when a teacher from Chico Unified actually agrees to do that dual enrollment. So those will come back when we actually have teachers that agree. Right now, we're not there yet. We're really only asking through this process for you to approve the main MOU, but we wanted you to be aware of the appendix and what it said for the teachers of the appendix.
No, I saw the appendix. I saw that everything was blank, but that explanation, you know, is wonderful, and I think this is a great opportunity for you know, partnering. And for, even though the tuition issue with the community colleges is less burdensome than it may have been a couple of years ago, the fact that these are transferable credits can end up helping them when they transfer into a 4-year system. So it's an amazing advantage for our kids and families. Thank you for working on this.
John, as far as academic subjects go, because we have like English teachers and math teachers at our campuses that have master's degrees, would we be able to also pursue that direction?
I think that's the goal. I just think they wanted to start and get CT in line first to make sure they see how the process works and to see if there's any you know, wrinkles they need to iron out as they go, and then look at how it could go into the core. I think the core subject area is a little bit different discussion with the academic senate at the junior college as well. So they wanted to kind of tread into this lightly and build up to it.
Liz.
So I understand what you're saying about the kids can be in this class and they can choose to be co-enrolled. But do we get ADA on all the kids?
Yeah, so the way it works is we made it very clear. This is why it didn't come to you guys till now, because we were trying to get some clarification and some opinions from auditors and such of how that would work. So essentially, the district gets funded for a student as long as they're enrolled in 4 classes, they get full-time funding. So if a student wants to take an dual enrollment class, they have to be in at least 5 classes so that the district gets their funding for the 4 classes, and then the junior college can get the funding for the class that's beyond 4 classes, because we can't both get the funding, but because we're technically not funded for the 5th and 6th period that students take, because they get fully funded for 4, then both entities can get their funding.
That's
so
great.
it doesn't cost us any funding.
Yeah, this is really a fabulous, step forward, and I think it's going to really benefit kids to get through sooner, get into the community college and move forward and have less debt. So it's awesome. Thank you for working on this.
So this is a first reading tonight, so it'll come back in October, and I'll make sure on page 1 we have the years on there, so it's clear what 3 years we're talking about.
You don't vote, is that
No,
correct?
information.
Correct. You'll vote at the workshop on October 3rd.
Okay, good, excellent. Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to item 10.1.4, John.
So we've been meeting with Inspire regularly to work out an operational MOU since early last spring. And we got to a point now where we have an agreement on everything in the operational MOU. So we're bringing that to the board tonight to vote on that. The Inspire board has already approved the MOU. So I'd like to get that taken care of, and then we'll talk about a possible addendum, get some direction from the board on a possible addendum as it relates to Inspire students in athletics.
Okay.
Can I just clarify? So what you mean is the last paragraph is separate from?
There were 2 documents attached. There was the like 18-page MOU, and then there was a separate document that was 1 page.
Yeah.
That was listed as an addendum for athletics. We're not asking you to vote on that part tonight. We just want some direction from you, but we are asking you to vote on the operational MOU, because it really should have started in last month, so we need to make sure we get it in place to make sure everything's working for our fiscal department.
Well, unless there's any questions, I read the whole thing, and I'm ready to move that we approve that memorandum.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion that is made in second. Do we have any discussion from the audience on this portion? I see none. Any from board members? Eileen?
I've participated not participated. I was on the peripheral of this when we did it 2 years ago when I was on the Inspire board, and there is a lot of work that goes on between the 2 entities and the 2, Mr. Baltima's not paying attention, departments. Oh, that really clearly identifies piece by piece by piece why something is being charged, the rationale behind it, whether or not it's equitable. And so I'm just, to both parties, it's a huge lift to get this done. And I just want to recognize that I know it was it was one of those.
Any other discussion from the board?
Did we get a second?
I don't think we have a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Well, oh, you did do that.
Okay,
Oh.
so Eileen just seconded.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. That's right. Any other discussion from the board?
Nope.
I see none. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, John?
Okay, so at the June 27th board meeting, this board voted to end the practice of Inspire students having a multi-campus agreement for their students to be able to participate in athletics at Chico High and Pleasant Valley. But with the understanding that the students that are attending this year, or the cohort of this year's grades, would be grandfathered in. So this year's freshmen through seniors would play until this year's freshman class graduates. It was also mentioned at that board meeting that perhaps there should be some sort of financial thing for Inspire to pay for those athletes to be able to participate. We worked on we didn't want to be a part of the operational MOU because we knew that this would require some more discussion because it was relatively new. So we brought a draft of a possible addendum to the MOU for athletics to Inspire just about 2 weeks ago. It was only a few days before they had their next board meeting where they did approve the operational MOU. And it basically talked about $500 per athlete. That was a number that Mr. Bultema came up with based on basically putting all the costs of athletics together and dividing by students, more or less. So we are bringing that back to the board tonight to get some direction on, now that you've seen the MOU, on how you'd like us to proceed. I know that Inspire has some concerns about why they're being charged now when they weren't before. And so we want to make sure where we want to go on that. We do know it is clear that when Inspire was, for lack of a better term, a dependent charter school, the amount of their LCFF funds that were going to the district was close to 18%. And now with the new arrangement as them being a 501(c), it's 3%. So it's significantly less money, a little bit more than 3% maybe because of some of the services we provide, but around that. So there is a lot less money coming into the district from Inspire. They are also now a independent charter school, just like all the other charter schools in Chico. We don't have this arrangement for any other charter school. So those are primarily the two, I think, big reasons why we're moving in this direction. I also think we need to look at, they're taking spots on athletic teams that our students could take. If athletics was really a key ingredient for those students, they may choose to attend a Chico Unified school, which would then bring more ADA money to Chico Unified. So those are kind of the three main factors that I think went into this concept that the board directed us to do. And we're looking for the board to provide direction. And I know that Inspire has some folks here that they probably want to share their thoughts and concerns as well.
Yeah.
Come on up.
I have a question. How come this didn't get to your board? Was it just a matter of timing, or did it stop in administration?
As far as bringing it to our board, yeah, in the cover letter, it says that we did not bring this to our board. Like John mentioned, it was a matter of timing, a couple days beforehand. So it was difficult for us to, agendize on our own board, just due to the Brown Act and getting it on our agenda. So that was one, just timing was really tight. We were told that we were going to be bringing it back to staff. We're going to be having more discussions, and then here we are tonight.
Well, I have a slightly different pitch to throw, which is that those kids are already on your campus and they already did perhaps already apply for a sport. Do you have kids that are playing right now?
Yes, we do.
How many?
Approximately 8, I believe.
Okay.
For the fall.
Correct, in season right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a total of 18 last year.
Okay. So it isn't a huge number, but yes, that's true. One of them could bump another kid that's an in-district kid off. But I think that this is coming late to the party in terms of what we were able to pull together and get estimates and all that. And what I don't like about the proposal that's here from us is $500 per athlete per sport. Because we didn't even see that part. We saw $500 per athlete and then the per sport snuck in. I do not believe that we should penalize a kid who might be in 3 different sports in 1 year, both for personal interest and because of talent. And I don't think with the way we use our fields that we're actually stepping on each other's toes, i.e. most of your fall teams aren't taking things away from your spring teams and your winter teams. So to me, I understand the idea of fairness, but I would think that 500 per athlete per year would be a reasonable thing. I don't really see an argument that could be made that we go on in perpetuity on this, because, again, you had a unique status, and other charters might decide that they should be able to jump in too, and, you know, that will make it very confusing. So anyway, that's my suggestion.
Kathy, I've got a couple responses for you on that. No, what I do, we had, in looking at the CIF agreement, and we don't, this is why I think this is a fast-track process that would be better off if we all slowed down and drilled down on some of these issues and really took a better look together at how this is working. But the CIF agreement does provide for a charter school living on a public district campus to participate in that school's sports, and that is an exception, and that is what distinguishes Inspire from other charters in the district at this point. So having said that, in terms of an argument for perpetuity, just want to state publicly that Inspire's position has always been that where we can work together to provide opportunities for all our students in the Chico community, that we really ought to do that and take a look at how that could be done. I know right now that we have a student, independent studies student with Chico Unified that requested to audit our recording arts class. We have no problem with that happening if we have the room and the space, which we do, and we want to support that. I know that this year we're bringing back the CI Dance Club, which for years we did as a dependent charter, which is not the right language, but we did that for years, and we're bringing that back again this year. No problem doing that because it provides kids opportunities to dance that might not otherwise have those opportunities. So, and I know that we also have, well, there are several other examples. I could get that information to you, but we just believe fundamentally that where we can work together to provide kids opportunities, that ought to be a place where we do that. And I think sports, given the numbers, I really don't know in terms of ADA and in terms of fiscal issues that that's really significant, given the numbers we've had over the years, very few kids. But I do know that we've had kids that need a small school environment, but also benefit by having an outlet for athletics. So I just believe that if we really put our mind to it and we all come to the table with a mindset that says, let's do what we can to provide opportunities for all Chico kids together. In some cases that may not be possible, but I think we ought to drill down a little bit more and find out maybe where it is. And I think our community would be thankful that we work together to do that. That's my bottom line argument.
So Eric, I never heard of this dance program. What exactly is that? Could you explain a little bit more?
This is a club that meets and is staffed by Inspire personnel. And a long time ago, we thought it would be good, living in the same campus with Chico High, that we build bridges. It's really kind of always been our philosophy to build bridges rather than to create barriers for kids. And so this is a club that existed for, I think, 5 years running. And this club performed at Inspire rallies and it performed at CHS rallies. On a couple of occasions, it performed at football games, CHS football games. And we see that as a really valuable resource for kids, both Chico High kids and for Inspire kids. And so we're bringing that back this year and inviting kids to be a part of it. We also have a tap ensemble club at lunchtime that works on 2 levels. We have Chico High kids participating in that. We've invited Chico High kids to participate in that. So these are the kinds of bridges that we're talking about. And we feel like we can reciprocate. If we can reciprocate, which may not be possible in athletics, according to the board, clearly that's not been the direction up to this time. But I think if we actually sat down at the table and really looked at all the opportunities available to kids that we could bring to them together, I think that's worth doing.
Mm. So you are envisioning that there are other where we could jointly, we could share different things. So it'd be like, okay, you maybe allow our kids to do the athletics, and then your kids could participate in something that's our strength.
Yeah, I think it would require some discussion to figure that out. We've been asked if a kid, like for instance, you're saying these kids are taking places on, teams that CHS students could have, and that's something we'd really have to look at. I think that depends on the sport. I know that kids who have done swimming over at PV, there was no question that all the kids that signed up for swimming over at PV all could participate. So, you'd have to look at each situation individually, but I think it's worth doing because I think our kids deserve, to have those opportunities. We've been asked, well, what if a Chico High kid came over to Inspire and wanted to audition for one of our plays? And what would happen in a case like that? And the response to that is we all have theater programs, so kids can participate in theater programs at their school. Not all schools have dance programs, so part of our discussions with the district, just as an idea, would be to perhaps offer higher level dance class placements for Chico High students, and because Chico High doesn't have a dance program, and we do. So it's those kinds of examples that until you really take a close look, rather than fast tracking a situation like this, you don't really know. And I don't think we've really taken a deeper look at this for the sake of kids in the district.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions just to make sure that I understood all the documentation behind why some of the decisions are what they are. CIF allows charter school students to participate when they're co-located. That's one thing, and that my assumption there is correct.
That's true as long as you have a multi-campus agreement that they can participate on that campus.
But you can do it if you want to do it. It's not prohibited, was my point. The initial direction from the district was that no student that had currently raised their hand and had decided to go to Inspire was going to be excluded from the current relationship with athletics until after they graduated. So that's the grandfathering in part. And then the next part is the cost of the students that are participating in a sport at the Chico High campus to be covered by the charter school. This is another one of those, like if it was in the agreement, this is the cost for that service from the district, basically. But the student's not being penalized. So if a student wanted to take 2 sports, Inspire would be covering the cost, not the, okay. The next thing that I'd like to throw out just in the way of consideration as we continue to try and reach an agreement on this issue is taking a look at the concern about a charter school student displacing a Chico High student. And there are some sports, and you mentioned swimming, where there are no cuts. So I certainly, if we agree to move forward with an agreement to allow with the $500 charge the Inspire students to compete, I would like to see a look at limiting it to the teams where there are no cuts. Because I do have a concern. I do have a concern about displacement of a Chico Unified School District student. I do, however, recognize that there are strengths at Inspire that draw students there beyond what Chico High offers. Even though the one thing that I'm thinking of, and I won't mention what it is improving. And that particular highlight for Inspire may go away in a few years because the program elevation at Chico High is just really, really coming to fruition. So my concerns that Inspire students not displace Chico Unified students, and that we do allow for the $500 per student assessment if we go forward with allowing, well, for the ones that are grandfathered in the current agreement, but if we decide to go beyond the current agreement of grandfathering in, I would want to see that continued as part of that agreement. Did I make myself
You did. Yes. Mr. Bohannon then. So we've already approved an MOU to complete this year.
No, we've actually, well, yes, you haven't approved an MOU. You made a board action that allowed them to continue to compete as long as there's students that are in the classes that are here this year. So through the class of, that would be what, 2022? Is that right? Yeah, 2022. So that's this year's freshman class. So that is in place. That is what we're currently following. We're looking for direction on, number one, are we staying with that? And so if so, then we're just talking about these next 4 years, or this year and the next 3. And then also, we're looking for direction on, should we continue to negotiate if Inspire should pay for that, for those students to be able to participate.
So is it
that's basically the direction we're looking for.
So is it possible to go with what we've approved and then continue with discussion? I know there's some options, A, B, and C, that maybe some more discussion could take place?
Correct, and I think that's why Inspire's administration has not taken it to the board yet. I think they'd like to see some more discussion as far as is there something between where we are that we can agree on? Those A, B, and C things, as what you're discussing, just came to all of us just yesterday from Inspire. Yeah.
Hold on, I'm not done. So then my question would be too, for more discussion, how did we come up with this $500? Because I know a football program costs a lot more than a tennis program.
I'm going to let Mr. Bolton answer that.
Sure, these are very round numbers, but for example, we spent $670,000 on coaching stipends last year. We spent approximately $150,000 on official transportation security, all paid out of GATE and ASB. We took field maintenance, and this is where I think the numbers ultimately would need to be adjusted, but $250,000 for all the different fields and maintenance. Utilities, water, electricity, $225,000. Our liability insurance at $75,000, which I think is a legitimate number. If you take a look at, we're almost spending $800,000 a year for liability across the district. Our CIF fees, and then an indirect cost just related to us having to process all the payroll and other things. But that total, divided by an estimated 2,000 students that participate in athletics, is really a cost per athlete of $731. So frankly, we landed on that number, again, very broad strokes, and said that seems high. And especially noting the other areas of field maintenance and utilities needing to probably come down to some extent, we just rounded to 500. So it was a very broad look. Originally 731. When we looked at this, we thought 500 would be a better number to just start from.
So would it be too difficult to even, cost account it out at a specific sport? Like tennis versus swimming, would that be just too much to?
There'd be a challenge with that, just as it relates to some of the different field maintenance and utilities and those types of things.
Well, I mean, someone who's playing tennis isn't using the field. I mean, I'm just trying to see if, to compare apples with apples.
No,
They're using a court, and there's maintenance for a court.
Right, there is maintenance for the court, and lights, utilities, and those types of things. The challenge would be, can we identify those lights being on and the specific PG&E use of those lights within our bill? That would be one of the challenges.
Okay.
Thanks. So I need to clarify in my mind what's happening here. We sent an MOU proposal to Inspire, but what I'm understanding is that Inspire doesn't really like that. Is this correct? And that you've given us these other options to look at.
Well, just quick correction, it's not that we don't like it, we just want to take a closer look at it.
Okay.
And do more research, and so that we have data to make decisions on.
Okay.
Right now, I think it's an initial offer,
Okay.
apparently, but it has nothing to do with liking or disliking.
Okay.
It has to do with
if
arriving
it
at
was
an informed decision.
the cost issue, if that was something.
Well, I think our questions were similar to Gary's questions, but how do we arrive at a $500 figure when sports are different by nature, when stipends for coaches are different by nature, when there's a lot of different factors, and maybe that is too much of a challenge. I don't know, but I don't feel comfortable going back to my board and saying, here's the cost, but I really don't know how to explain it to you. And maybe, I know Kevin's always been a great partner, and he would come, we could talk, and he could come and talk to our board. I mean, all that's possible.
Sure.
I just think we haven't slowed down enough to really understand what it
Sure.
means. That's, I would classify it more like that than dislike.
Okay. So, in other words, then you might be willing to pay an assessment, I think is the word that you used, to have your students participate in Chico High sports. We just have to maybe come to an agreement on a number? See, this is what I'm still working through, because your argument was very compelling earlier about, you know, some of the Chico kids could come to Inspire classes. And we're talking about sports and clubs. If we started talking about actual classes, then that would be, I think, really complicated with ADA and that kind of thing. But your argument is compelling, very compelling to me. However, you know, I still come back around to, yes, you are co-located on a Chico High campus, but that's really kind of by happenstance. And so in my heart, I think if we say, okay, Inspire students can participate in our sports, then we should offer the same to Core Butte and Pivot and any of the other high schools that are out there. It's not a matter necessarily of co-location, but it's a matter of a charter school, an independent charter school or 501c3 charter being able to participate. And if they wanted to pay an assessment fee too, well, then we kind of open it up to everyone. That's my feeling on that.
Am I allowed to give you a response on that?
Sure, please.
So number one, I don't know that I would agree with the classification that it's happenstance.
Well,
So that would be number one. If we don't really need to go into the history of how Inspire came to be,
Right.
but it wasn't happenstance in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
So I don't agree with that way of characterizing
that's
it.
probably not the correct word, but.
And number two, we are co-located on a campus, and the other charters are not. So for us, that's a distinction. That's a definite distinction. So I'm not going to agree there either.
Okay.
I think when you look at the CIF language and the provision in the CIF agreement, that it clearly indicates that if you're co-located, you have other choices. And that does distinguish us from the other charters in the district.
All right, very good, thank you.
And I just want to say, I've been sitting here, and I don't know if I really want to say this, but I think I'm going to. So if we want to use the clause in that co-locating, we could be potentially encouraging other high school charter schools to then want to co-locate on our campuses.
Exactly.
And I'm not really sure if we want to set that precedent either.
Exactly.
We may want to, but I'm not really sure if we do.
And I'm going to jump in there. You know, we've
No.
been having lots of conversations about movement of Inspire, and I think we all agreed that that was in the best interest of both schools. And does that help facilitate that movement of Inspire to Canyon View?
And I agree with Kelly about that movement. And in the CIF agreement, if, let's say, it was to move to where kids within the Chico High School boundaries, in the provision, it only accounts for kids within the Chico High School boundaries, not PV, because it distinguishes that. And I agree with Kelly that, yes, we're all in agreement that it would be good to move. And should that happen, then the agreement would sunset, because then the provision no longer applies, unless, of course, Canyon View High School is built first, and then we're on the same property as Canyon View High School, but we all. So basically, I think you're right, Kelly. I think it's all our interests that we're moving, but in the meantime, I go back to the argument that if we can provide kids with more opportunities, even if we're not co-located on a campus, and if we can sit down and share that. We do that with Butte College, we do that with Chico State. Why aren't we looking at that more deeply? That's my argument.
Well, why are we just providing opportunities for the Inspire kids then, and not the Pivot kids or the Core Butte kids? See, so I keep coming back around to that. And if your argument is just the co-location, then I'm not sure I can agree with that 100%. That's all.
Okay, CIF has explicit language about the co-located campuses. I would like to suggest very strongly that we postpone this particular addendum and that there be a more intense, robust discussion between the two for several reasons. We already have kids in the sports. So we're not going to take them out. We're not going to tell them they can't be in a winter sport or a spring sport. We're not going to do that. So this isn't something we have to do. There's no button to push today. They're not going to run out of money tomorrow. I better not. But I think that we should have both a better understanding and a more in-depth framing of how we would do this if we're going to attach a fee. But there's not any question about what's going to happen to these kids this year, right?
So, if I can clarify on that, Kathy, the board already made the decision about the 4 years. That decision has been made. But when that decision was made, the board also said to come up with a fee. So that's where this is the discussion of what is that fee. So since we are now already into our sports, that is going, we want a direction from the board. Do you want it to be no fee and they just continue on? Do you want there to be the $500 fee that Kevin came up with? Do you want a further breakdown of what the fee is? But that's where, because we didn't have an answer and we were directed by the board to do that, that's why it's back here. So you have a status update of where we are. We've kind of, threw something out there. It came back, but sports are going and kids are participating.
I think one of the concerns I heard from Inspire was the cost breakdown and how that happens. So perhaps if we could get a little more clarity on that, it would make all of us feel a little better about this.
And certainly share that information with Inspire in more
Sure.
detail as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is that we already decided that at 2021-22, no longer are any Inspire students going to be participating.
That is correct. The board made that decision.
And so that is not an issue at this point. So then the only question would be the financial aspect of it, and whether at this point we would only consider them to be coming into sports that they're not contending for spots on the teams.
That's not my understanding
That's
of
not
the
in there right
decision.
now, no.
That's not in there? Okay.
At either high school.
Okay, so that's a moot point. So really, the only issue that's before us right now is the financial aspect of it? Okay, so the last half hour of discussion was really for no good reason?
Well, unless the board wanted to give us different direction, that wasn't what we were talking about. But if that's all the board direction wants to talk about is the fiscal stuff, then that's what we'll talk about, the fee. The board the board already made a decision, right?
Thank you. I have two thoughts, actually two positions, two decisions. Number one, on the issue of the charge, for the number of students that we have potentially involved here, I do not want our business department personnel spending any more time trying to figure out the fee. I think you did a good guesstimate of what it would be, rounded it down because it didn't seem logically at the point where you came. I trust your judgment on numbers. You've been pretty good with us so far. So I don't want any more time spent on that issue. I like $500. On the issue of whether or not to continue to talk about doing something different after 21-22, I think I agree with what seems to be, excuse me, the decision that other board members have come up with, and now I'm, excuse me, giving you my interpretation of what I thought I heard, was that we need to treat our charter programs at this level the same, and not single out one population because of co-location. And I agree with that, if that is in fact what the other board members are saying. So my position is $500 sounds fine. I don't think we need to talk about going beyond 22.
My motion was to take the addendum that hasn't been presented to Inspire's charter, to develop a greater understanding of how I'm not arguing about the $500, but how the amount got arrived at, and whether there is some kind of potential exchange, that's what's being suggested, but that you bring it back, because I don't think at this point, we don't have anything from Inspire as an agreement, and so I think we need to make this a more, I don't know, developed idea that comes back.
So that's your motion?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Well, if I'm understanding what you're saying, is that the money is at issue, but if what you're interpreting, are you interpreting what Eric said to mean that if there are other opportunities at Inspire, that it would be like a quid pro quo, that we wouldn't have the money involved?
I'm suggesting that's an area they could investigate.
But I mean, is that what you were kind of thinking?
Yeah, because originally we got $500 per athlete, and then we got $500 per athlete per sport. That starts to become a negative for the more involved athlete.
So, I mean, is the idea going out there that instead of a financial aspect of dollars actually being transferred, that we're talking about possibly during this 4-year period, Inspire maybe would have opportunities for Chico High students instead of them paying the fee, that might be something that would be offered instead?
I don't want to, yeah, that's what.
Is that what you're thinking?
But I think they have to do it together.
Okay.
Rather than throwing A, B, C, and D.
Okay, so based on that understanding, I would second that motion.
Okay, good. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the audience? I think they've discussed it quite a bit. Any other discussion amongst us? Oh, Mr. Hanlon, I'm sorry.
I'd like to hear the motion again also.
Okay, Mr. Parent. He's got his parent hat on.
Yeah, I got my parent hat on. So I'm just going to respectfully disagree with Eric. We've worked a long time together. We've known each other a long time, but I just have a different look at it through the eyes of a parent. I've had 3 children attend schools here at Chico Unified. One son graduated from PV. Another son graduated from Chico High School. And I currently have a daughter who's a senior at Chico High School. So I've had students at both. Excuse me. All 3 have participated in sports, or currently are, and it has been a tremendous experience for them and for my wife and I. So it's been a family experience. Before they decided which high school to attend, however, we talked at length about the pros and cons of attending either Chico High or PV. We made a specific decision based on friends, of course, that was part of it, but programs offered, sports teams, there were specific teachers that they wanted to work under, electives, and then also the school culture that they thought they could be a part of, which athletics is a huge part. Sports was not the main factor in any of these decisions, but it was a significant factor in all of them. Sports teams in the high school is a huge part of the overall school culture. Overall school culture and school experience. Whether you're on a sports team, rooting for a team from the stands, cheering for the team on the cheer team, part of the marching band, or just attending a homecoming rally, encouraging your classmates for the big game at night. It's a part of the culture of the school that every student gets to be part of if they choose. Every athlete on a team gets to be an integral part of that celebration and culture that is so important to the school experience. If students that do not attend the school are permitted to take a roster spot of the student that chose to go to that school, or even take up playing time of a student that chose that school, they diminish the experience that was the reason why they went to Chico High or to PV High School. Selfishly, it's also a loss for us parents. Also, when our children are cut, or if their playing time is diminished because of a person that didn't go to the school. Now, it comes with the territory of competitive sports if the student lost out from somebody at your school. But it's much harder to understand for the student and the parent that when that happens because a student that didn't attend the school is the cause of that. All students and families get to make the choice of where they attend school with full understanding of what that school offers. Now, I absolutely believe that Inspire students should have the same opportunities as students at Chico High and PV to be on sports. However, charter schools such as Butte Core and University Prep in Reading have resolved that issue by starting their own sports teams. What I would encourage is that Inspire look at that if there's specific areas that their students are interested in, specific sports, so that they get the opportunity to participate and experience that culture of their school without taking it away from students at either PV or Chico High. So that's just from a parent perspective, it's being a part of the whole school, not just being a part of that team. Thank you.
We forgot to time you. 3 minutes. And also, again, we have already, as a board, made the decision to allow the Inspire kids to be on our athletic teams for the next 4 years. And the other aspect of this is it's very difficult to make this big distinction when a student who's in College Connection can be on any one of our teams, and you don't see those kids at all during the day. At all. They're at Butte. But they have a legal right to come and be on that team. So I think we want to be really careful not to paint a box that looks one way when in fact in the mirror it's a little bit different.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Linda wanted Erica to repeat it. Can you do that for us?
Board Clerk Kaiser moved to take the addendum that hasn't been presented to the Inspire Charter Board with clarification on how the amount of $500 per student was arrived at and explore the option of some sort of exchange between Inspire and Chico High School, and requested that it be brought back a more developed idea and to investigate further.
Okay, so that's our motion with a second. Any other discussion amongst the board? Yes?
It's our custom, if we're going to vote no, to explain why.
Correct.
I'm going to vote no, and the reason I'm going to vote no is because I support the agreement that we have already reached to leave the kids that are already enrolled at Inspire with the knowledge that they would have a chance to participate in sports and that not be taken away from them, but that moving forward, the idea of athletics needs to be for the schools that the student is attending.
We didn't have a fee.
Okay.
That's what
Yeah,
okay,
the fee
I believe though our
is not part of your
I
motion.
did let Eileen speak on this, but I believe the after the vote is when you indicate why you chose what you did.
I'm sorry.
But,
okay.
But that's not even what this motion addresses. The motion addresses strictly the financial aspect of it.
I thought the motion addressed working out a way to exchange other programs, dance for athletics or something.
In lieu of money.
And that was part of the motion. And I'm voting no because that's part of the motion.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you vote? You already said no. Okay, so motion passes 4-1. Am I correct? All those not in favor?
I'm not in favor.
Okay, I guess I knew it somehow. Okay, so the motion passes 4-1. And you've already explained. So we are moving on to the next item. Thank you. 10.1.5 textbooks. All those in favor?
Good evening. We're just looking for approval. The obsoleting process, every year we compile a list, share it with our sites, see if anybody's interested internally with it. Once nobody's interested, we need to come forward with board approval then to take those books and see if we can sell them to an outside vendor, get some money back. So what we're looking for is just your approval to kind of complete that process and take that list of books and see if we can get out, sell it to somebody that might be interested out externally, like Fallout or somebody like that.
So I'm going to jump in here before you vote on this, though. One of the issues that we have run into is because some of our books are so old, we can't find people that want them. So we have offered them to vendors to try to sell. Joanna has offered them to charter schools. We've offered them to other schools just as supplemental books. But what this does mean is then if we cannot find another home for them, we will be destroying these books. So I just want that very clear. You know, I don't want anybody to be shocked by the fact that, oh my gosh, a school district is destroying books. I need to be clear that that's what will happen if we cannot find other homes.
I know that there are groups that take textbooks and ship them overseas to underdeveloped countries where...
We did look into that, and the costs were so phenomenal on the shipping, and many of these are big books, that they were not interested. But if you have other contacts, we would love, if they will take them without a cost to us, we would love to explore that. We have not been successful to date.
Okay, so Ted, what is the criteria on which they determine whether something is obsolete? Because some of those I noticed, they were, maybe they were 2008, 2009 or something like that.
Typically, it says the new adoption cycle comes in.
Okay.
The ones that are the past adoption cycle are the most common ones you'll see on there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I believe we have a motion and a second. But I don't know what the motion was.
The motion is, Eileen made it, I think.
Just remove, yeah, nothing other. And I think Kathy made it and Eileen seconded. Am I correct?
Vice versa, I think.
Okay, so any discussion from the audience? I see none. Any more discussion from the board? None. All those in favor?
I think we have
to roll call, yes.
Griffin, aye.
Lustal, aye.
Kaiser, aye.
Robinson, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We now move to item 10.1.6.
All right, we're here for the sufficiency of instructional materials for 2018-19. I want to just be able to state that we are fully compliant with resolution number 1443-18. So as such, Educational Services Department requests approval for this resolution.
So moved.
Well, open the public hearing on this? Okay, public hearing is now open. Any other discussion on the public hearing? I see none. Public hearing is closed. Okay, go ahead.
I moved. Kathy seconded.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I don't know what the motion was. It was to adopt it. Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion from the audience? None. Any from the board? None. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. That was quick. Okay, now we move to, gosh, it's gone so long. Should we just table this one? No. Just kidding, just kidding. Item 10.2.1.
Kevin was not paying attention.
No. Who's coming up, Mr. Baltima?
Yes, so I'll point out what you have before you this evening are updated salary schedules. Those salary schedules represent an increase of 6.98%. We determined that number based on the local control funding formula that per ADA change. What we estimate the current year is 7.17. The agreement also calls for a prior year adjustment. Last year, we reached an agreement for 2.46 based on that same calculation a year ago. Now that the books are closed and we have all the enrollment and everything else, that actual number was 2.27, difference being 0.19. So we take the 7.17 less the prior year adjustment of 0.19, and we bring to you the 6.98% increase.
Nice round number.
Kelly is dying that it's not 7.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve this action.
Okay. I think the motion was made by Liz, and it was a tie for the second. Can we do that? Can we do a tie? We could go to super slow motion and find out who. Okay, we'll give it to Eileen. Okay, so there's our motion and our second. Do we have any discussion from the audience? I think I see none. Any from the board? I see none. Call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
I'm in charge again here. Okay, 10.2.2.
Did Julie leave?
Julie did leave. I'm going to carry this. I've actually been working on this myself, so it's my baby at this point.
Oops.
The backstory here is that the medical therapy unit operated by California Children's Services has been housed for many years at Loma Vista. With the recent construction, the cost to rebuild that same facility for their use would have been over $1.4 million. So we kicked this back to the SELPA, because this is a SELPA program. The SELPA worked on finding another location for almost a year. At one point, they thought they were going to locate at the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds. However, they could not find a good location that was ultimately suitable. Understanding that the MTU serves here in Chico mostly our students, we worked with the SELPA and with representatives of CCS to determine a new location on a different elementary school site. We believe the best location is Little Chico Creek. So what we are bringing to you are two things. One is a reimbursement agreement, and I've also included the minutes from the SELPA where they have actually already taken action to reimburse the cost of the new building and infrastructure costs that will be fully paid by the SELPA. So that's one agreement. The second agreement is the use agreement that basically talks about how the MTU will live at LCCS for a term of 10 years. But note, we do have the ability to end the agreement with a 24 months notice, which we think is appropriate because it's going to take a while to move the building and find a different location if it were needed ultimately. So really what this does is it formalizes two things. One, for Chico Unified to receive full reimbursement because we wanted to run the management of the construction to our standards since it was on our school site. We believe we have the skill set to do that best, and then ultimately be reimbursed. So we're asking for your approval for that, and then ultimately this is where we think the program's going to reside for a number of years, and this MOU has been drafted by our legal counsel to really cover us for all the legal items to having that program, which ultimately will be owned by the SELPA, so it can operate in perpetuity.
The building, not the land.
The building will be owned by the SELPA. We continue to own the land.
Okay, I move that we approve the reimbursement agreement and joint use agreement for construction of the MTU.
Okay, a motion's been made and second. Do we have any discussion from the audience? I see none. Any from the board? I see none. Call the question. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. We now move to items from the floor. Does anybody have an item that they'd like to bring up that was not on the agenda? I see none. Any more announcements? I do want to announce that the League of Women Voters, if you do go to their Facebook page, webpage, the debate that took place on Monday is there for you to watch. So, both debates, but the debate for the school board is there, and also the city council. Yes, ma'am. Well, you know, some devices sometimes don't, but you should be able to get it to play on a computer for sure, because I looked. I haven't tried on an iPhone. I usually don't try those because they're, yeah. But we can look into it so you could see it. Okay. Guess what? Adjournment.